We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video on Juice and Toya.
Hey, welcome back.
Today, we're taking you all through a form check, all right? So we've seen a lot of questions and comments on a lot of our workout videos about proper form on an exercise, how you should be doing it, or where you should be feeling it.
Oh yeah, so today we're gonna take you through 10 common exercises. We're gonna give you some tips on form, how to do it correctly, but also this is gonna help you avoid injury as you do these exercises in our workouts or workouts for yourself, all right? Yep. So we're gonna go into full trainer mode right now and get right into it.
Let's get into it. All right, so the first exercise we're gonna go over is a body weight squat, all right? So keep in mind that even though we're showing you some of these exercises body weight, the same cues can still apply if you're using weight or holding some type of resistance, okay? So also, there are many different variations of squats and advanced versions of squats and all the exercises we're gonna show you today, but just for the sake of majority of people, we're gonna keep these pretty basic, okay? So Julius is gonna be my client for this exercise and we're gonna show you how to do a body weight squat.
Let's get it.
So we're gonna start off with feet about hip distance apart, all right? And Julius is going to look at something eye level and maintain that gaze. What that's gonna do is help to keep his chest nice and tall, and he's gonna shift his weight back in the heels and squat or sit as deep as he can, okay? So notice he's still gazing at something eye level, chest is nice and tall, and his weight is back in the heels, okay? So as you're doing these squats, if at any point you feel like your chest is dipping low or you can't quite sit back into the heels and you find yourself shifting forward, you only wanna sit back as deep as you can go and then push up through the heels, okay? So if sitting as deep as you can means that you're breaking that proper form or your chest is going forward, don't go down quite as low, okay? So one other cue that you can do to help yourself sit a little bit deeper in a squat is by using a chair or a couch or something that you can sit down and back to. So the same rules still apply here. He's still gonna look at something eye level to keep his chest nice and tall, and he's still gonna sit the weight back in the heels, but now he has something to sit back to. Sometimes this just helps with the confidence of knowing there's something there to catch me, I'm not gonna fall. Also, you can take that pause at the bottom, reset your core, and then have that strength to push yourself back up through the heels. So if you feel like you can't quite get as deep as you'd like, a good way to practice is by using a chair or something that you can sit back to.
All right, the next exercise we have for you is a lunge. And just like the squat, there are a lot of different lunges, but we're gonna go over a basic front lunge. And a lot of you may struggle with lunges if you have problems with stability, if you have knee pain. We're gonna give you a few cues to help you out with that, all right? So we're gonna start with the front lunge. We're gonna start in a tall position. We wanna make sure that heel is right underneath the knee. That's gonna make sure your quads and glutes are loaded evenly. We're gonna press through that heel, drive up, and return back to that starting position, all right? So just like the squat, you wanna make sure that chest is nice and tall, right? You got your eyes focused ahead, and that's gonna make sure everything is working properly, all right? So if you find that you're doing a lunge and that knee is caving in, so show me an example of a bad lunge, Toya. And that knee is caving in, you wanna try to actively drive that knee out. That's gonna ensure that glute is working, keep your foot flattened to the floor, and that's gonna help you avoid any knee pain that you might have, all right? So if you feel like that knee is caving in or out, all right, make sure it's straight, and that should take care of that problem.
And try to keep the knee aligned over your second and third toe. That'll keep it from going out, and you don't wanna go too far in or out.
Oh yeah, so if you struggle with front lunges, reverse lunges are a great alternative because you're not using as much of that front foot, all right? So same concept, you wanna step back in reverse, you wanna have that knee or heel underneath the knee, you're gonna drive up again through the heel, but you also have this back leg, right, that you can press off of as assistance, okay? So that's gonna give you a nice little drive out of the lunge, and that should help you out as far as just being able to do it strength-wise, okay? And then lastly, if you struggle with lunges, if you feel like you're wobbly, you're not as stable, you can always use something as assistance. This could be a chair, this could be an arm, anything that'll help you stay stable. And then also know that you don't have to go as low if you don't have that range of motion, all right? So that can be plenty for someone who doesn't have the range of motion to where you're still engaging those muscles. And then over time, as you do it more often, you'll build that mobility, you'll build the strength to where you'll be able to go lower and maybe even not even use assistance over time, all right? So those are a few cues, make it work for you. All right, so the next exercise we're gonna show you is a push-up, everybody's favorite, all right? So we're gonna get into a high plank position. Toya, all right, cool. So big key with the push-up here is making sure your hands are underneath your shoulders. That's gonna make sure everything is aligned, but also you wanna keep that back nice and flat. To do that, we're gonna squeeze our glutes, we're gonna tuck our hips through there, and that's gonna help make sure our lower back is not engaged. So if you don't have your glutes squeezed, Toya, do a bad push-up, arch your back, go down, okay? All that tension is going down into the lower back.
Oh yeah.
Do not want that, all right? Want to tuck the hips through, squeeze the glutes, go down. Elbows are at a 45-degree angle, press up through the palms, and you should be good to go. So even if you have to drop down to your knees, if you're not quite good at push-ups, drop down to your knees, same concept, squeeze the glutes, tuck the hips, drive up and through, just like that. Really try to squeeze the chest, engage the core, and keep in mind, push-ups are a core exercise as well. It's not just chest and triceps. You really have to engage your core to do a push-up properly, all right?
Oh, yeah.
So keep that in mind.
All right, the next exercise we have to show you all is a sit-up. So again, a common exercise, but these cues might help you to just feel them or get a little bit more out of them, all right? First, we're gonna start off by pushing our belly button through the ground and tucking the hips. That movement right there is going to, you might even feel the core already there. That's gonna help activate and engage that core. Next, we're gonna cross the arms over the chest just because we don't wanna use momentum by throwing them forward, and we also don't wanna tug on the neck as we come up, okay? So what we wanna do here is dig our heels through the ground, push that belly button through, engage the core, and then come all the way up, all right? As he's going down, notice he went down nice and slow. Your core is still doing work on the way down too, okay? You don't wanna use momentum throwing yourself up, and you don't wanna just plop yourself back down. Both of those things are gonna take the core out of it, okay? It's also a good way to hurt yourself and bruise your back, all right? Yeah. So with these, you also wanna make sure that you give yourself a nice big exhale at the top, okay? The breathing will really help you to engage the core a little bit more as well. The same rules here apply for a crunch too. So if you can't get all the way up into a sit-up, you still want to exhale at the top of a crunch. You still want to pull that belly button in and engage the core and keep yourself from using momentum to throw yourself up. Really good sit-ups.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I've been working on those. All right, the next exercise we're gonna go into is a plank, all right? So just like a push-up, we're gonna keep that back nice and flat. We're gonna tuck those hips to where we can squeeze the glutes, and then from there, you should get some pretty good core engagement. So even if you held this for a minute and a half, you can really feel your abs in this position, all right? So now we're gonna drop down to the elbows, okay? So big key here is you wanna keep those elbows right underneath your shoulder. Again, keep that back nice and flat, squeeze the glutes, and I should be able to balance a cup of water on her back without it falling, all right? So again, just like any other exercise, make sure you're breathing, getting a big inhale, big exhale as you're doing any type of plank exercise. So you can hold that for 3 more minutes if you want.
Okay. All right, and then another modification, if it's too much pressure being on your wrist or you can't quite hold yourself up on the forearms, you can also elevate the plank and still get some good core work.
Chair is your best friend. All right, so again, they can get some good core work here. Keep those hands underneath the shoulders. And this is just a way to modify a plank if you really struggle with them, all right? And then as you get better, you can lower your surface. You can get something that's low on the surface. You can go into the elbows, and then you can go onto the hands and progress yourself all the way down to the plank.
Woo! All right, so the next exercise, we're gonna pick up some weights and show you a front-loaded deadlift, all right? So very first to begin, his feet are gonna be about shoulders distance apart, and he is going to tuck his ribs and his hips and engage that core. He's gonna pull shoulder blades back. There should be tension back here between his shoulder blades, okay? So now the movement of the deadlift, you wanna hinge your hips back and not squat down, right? So his hips were pushed back, nice flat back here, neutral spine, and core is engaged. So a common thing we see is people want to reach the dumbbells forward. We see this. They feel like you have to get the dumbbells as close to the ground as you can. Take that out of your mind, right? What you want to do is keep those dumbbells close to your shins and push your hips back as far as they can go, and then you're going to drive up, okay? Yep. So hinge the hips back, dumbbells stay close to the shins, and his back is still nice and flat. Now round forward again. You see how he loses that once he doesn't pull his shoulder blades back. Shoulder blades stay pulled back, drive up through the heels. Squeeze your glutes. So if you do notice it's a little tough for you to bring the weight in front, or you do feel like you're rounding too much, you can also keep those dumbbells in a neutral position. So now they'll stay at the side of your body, just like a suitcase deadlift, and still maintain the same position, push the hips back. Weight is back in his heels. Even if the toes need to come up a little, the weight is back, and he's pushing his knees out over the toes, just like in the lunge. So you should feel a deadlift in your hamstrings or your glutes. If you're feeling it anywhere else, just check those little key pointers in the form. Sometimes it's as simple as keeping the shoulder blades pulled back. If you're too rounded forward, sometimes that shoots the weight forward into your knees. And sometimes it's as simple as pushing your hips back a little bit more. Maybe you're squatting a little too much, okay? So sometimes it's a super easy form fix.
Oh yeah, and then one big key pro tip here, if you have a wall, you can use a wall as a reference. So if you feel at the bottom of a deadlift, you feel a lot of tension here, especially as you fatigue, you can press your hips to a wall as sort of an aiming point, and then you can drive those hips up as well. So that's just a big way to get some assistance if you really struggle with deadlifts.
All right, so this is a great segue into our next exercise, which is a bent over row. So a bent over row, you are going to start off in deadlift position. So you see his weight is back in the heels, hips are pushed back, shoulder blades are on and engaged, and your core is engaged, all right? In this position, he's going to pull his elbows up and back and actively squeeze those shoulder blades. So right here, if I put my finger between the shoulder blades, it is being squeezed with each rep. All right, so the biggest thing here, you wanna make sure that your core is engaged, but also notice where his chin is, it's tucked, he's gazing down. You don't want to look up at the ceiling, see how that creates an arch here in his upper back, and then you start to use your traps, right? So keep a nice neutral spine, nice flat back, and squeeze those shoulder blades, all right? Again, there are many different types of rows. With all of them, it's gonna be super important that your core is engaged no matter the type of row you're doing. So even going into a wide row here, you might work a few different muscles in the back, but regardless, you're in a hinged position, your core is tight, your shoulder blades are being squeezed, no matter the type of row you're doing, all right?
All right, the next exercise we have for you is a single leg deadlift, all right? So just like the lunges in any single leg exercise, a big key here is making sure that your foot is flattened to the ground. Now also make sure that you have the proper shoes on too as well. If you have a shoe that has sort of a lift at the back to where your toes are lower than your heels, you might find that your feet are kind of front loaded there. So make sure you have a flat surface, or you can even do this barefoot if that helps you stay flattened to the ground. All right, so keep that in mind for lunges, single leg deadlifts, or any sort of single leg exercise like that. All right, so just like a deadlift, she's gonna hinge back into her hips. Again, she's keeping this bottom leg nice and vertical, weight into the heels. She's gonna drive up, squeeze through the glutes just like that. And just like the regular deadlift, keep that core nice and engaged, that back is flat, and squeeze the glutes as you come up top, all right? And again, she's keeping that weight close to her shins. She's not letting it get away from her, all right? Also, you might notice she has her chin tucked. See how her spine is aligned all the way through? Lift that chin up, Toya. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to
make you really unbalanced.
Yes, right? You don't want to be looking up at the sky. There's nothing to look at out here, right? Let your neck follow your spine the entire time, and that's gonna make sure you're not having any back pain, you're not arching your back as you're going through this movement, okay? If you find that the exercise is too difficult, drop the weight, all right? You can do the same exercise, you can drop into it, all right? You can get that same sort of engagement through the hamstrings and glutes and drive up and practice that way. And then additionally, you can hinge back, try to tap the toe back as assistance, and then drive up and through just like that, all right? So those are some different ways that you can make it easier. Again, just like any of the other lower body exercises, you can use a chair, you can use a wall for balance, just to give you that stability, all right? All right, the next exercise we have for you is a shoulder press, all right? So we're gonna start with the foundation to a shoulder press, and that's making sure you're engaging your core. Really squeeze those abs here, and then also you wanna squeeze your glutes. This is the core to the front, this is the core to the back, and that's gonna make sure your lower back and all the way up through the spine is nice and neutral as you press up, all right? So what Toya's gonna do, she's gonna press up, lock those elbows up at the top, and as she presses up, you wanna make sure this is nice squeezed, there's no arching of the spine, and then come back down. Show me a bad shoulder press. Arch the spine up, right? Now she has a little curve in the back. It's giving her more range of motion, but it's gonna leave her room for injuries and back pain, right? So you wanna press up as much as you can to where you can engage the core, squeeze the glutes, and press that weight up. If you feel like you're pressing the weight forward, press it forward a little bit, like you have limited range of motion, the weight is probably too heavy, all right? So drop the weight down. You can go lighter in 2 dumbbells, or you can even use 1 to where you can press up and get that full range of motion. See how nice and straight she is right there? All right, so that is a big key when it comes to shoulder presses, keeping this nice and engaged. That way you're not arching in the spine.
Yep.
All right, the last exercise we have for you are curls, okay? So simple exercise, but this is typically something people do wrong. I wanna make sure we clarify this, all right? So just like the shoulder press, we're gonna keep that core nice and engaged, same foundation, squeeze the glutes. What Toya's gonna do is she's gonna keep those elbows fixed right by her side, and then she's gonna drive that weight up from there. So that's what you wanna do to make sure that those elbows and those biceps are nice and engaged. Keep those elbows fixed, and you see that she's isolating those biceps, all right? What you don't wanna do, you don't wanna swing the weight, so show them swing the weights. You can do that all you want. It's not gonna work your biceps as much as you need. It's not gonna isolate the biceps, all right? It's just a swing, you're just swinging the weights. And then another thing is you want more bicep engagement. You can slightly rotate those elbows forward. That's gonna engage more of the top of the bicep, and then we're gonna work the elbows back down just like that, all right? So keeping that in mind, that's gonna ensure that you're getting the most out of those curls, not swinging, not using any assistance, and that way you're doing it correctly with good form.
Woo! All right, everyone, that wraps up the form check video. So hopefully this was helpful to you and those cues gave you a little bit more confidence or clarity going into some of these exercises.
For sure.
So as we mentioned, the ones that were body weight, the same cues can still apply if you're holding a dumbbell or any type of weight or resistance. Also, there are so many different variations to these exercises. These were all pretty much basic foundational exercises, but there are so many different ways to make them more advanced or change up the exercise entirely. So there might be a different cues for those too. So if that's a video that you guys would like to see, let us know and we can make that happen.
Oh yeah, drop a comment. And also, if you liked this video, if it was super helpful, please give us a thumbs up, drop a comment, let us know how you like it. But if you want more content from us, be sure to check out the Juice and Toya app. We have more follow along workouts. We have nutrition, motivation, but also we have guided workouts that'll help show you reps and sets and also give you some descriptions on how to help with your form as well. If that's something that you're interested in, hit that description. We got the link down there for the Juice and Toya app. Check it out. We promise you, you're gonna like it, all right? We appreciate you for joining us. We're gonna go eat now because we're hungry, and we see you at the next one.
See you at the next one.